Hey YouTube! I'm excited for today's video because typically when we talk about adapted lenses, and especially 645 lenses, we're talking really high image quality, but unfortunately still a bit behind modern performance levels of native GFX lenses. This particular lens, however, is an exception. I was blown away by the sharpness of this 35mm lens, and from having shot most of the native GFX lineup, this is definitely in the same league. I recently went on spring break with a family and had the 35mm in tow, and I'm excited to share those images with you on this episode of Heritage Focus. Before we get into the sample images, let's spend some time talking about the lens itself. Introduced in 1986 as part of Pentax's 645 medium format system, the A version of the 35mm lens was designed as a premium ultra-wide option for the 645, 645N, and 645N2 cameras. The A in its designation indicates it belongs to the first generation of Pentax 645 lenses featuring fully manual focus operation while still supporting automatic exposure modes on compatible film bodies. The A version remained in production until around 2002 when it was eventually replaced by an autofocus version referred to as the FA version. What's particularly noteworthy is that many photographers and lens experts consider this original manual version superior to its autofocus successor, primarily due to the autofocus version's issues with field curvature. Eventually, Pentax introduced a third version, the DFA, which was a digital optimized version. The DFA version is technically the most refined iteration, but the original A version maintains a devoted following for its compact size, exceptional build quality, and optical character. The lens features a sophisticated optical formula consisting of 9 elements arranged in 8 groups, including a floating rear element design for improved close focus performance. Pentax applied their proprietary SMC or super multi-coating to all elements, ensuring excellent contrast and flare resistance, and we'll see some examples of that later on. In terms of mechanical construction, it exemplifies the exceptional build quality of Pentax's medium format offerings from this era. The focus ring is beautifully dampened, allowing for precise manual focus with just a fingertip. Unlike many modern lenses, the 35 f3.5 provides a tactile, responsive focusing experience that many shooters find a pleasure to use. The aperture mechanism features 8 blades, stepping down from f3.5 to f22 with rather satisfying half-stop clicks. The lens measures 80mm in diameter and 67mm in length, making it relatively compact for a medium format ultra-wide. As we have to adapt the lens to the GFX cameras, I'll be using my Kipan adapter. The adapter adds 80mm or 3 inches to the lens, so the adapted length is about 157mm or just under 6¼ inches. It weighs 470 grams, striking a nice balance between a substantial feel in your hand and portability. The Kipan autofocus adapter weighs in at 256 grams. The combined weight is right around 726 grams or 1.6 pounds. One of its more interesting remarkable physical attributes is the 77mm filter thread that doesn't rotate during focusing. Even more impressive is its ability to accept stacked 77mm filters without vignetting. This is almost unheard of in ultra-wide designs and is particularly valuable for landscape photographers who stack polarizers, ND filters, and graduated filters. It is not an internal focusing lens, and while the front filter thread doesn't rotate, the lens itself extends about 1.5 inches when fully extended. Minimum focus distance for the lens is 30 centimeters or just under 12 inches. Okay, let's talk about price and availability. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of the A version of this lens for GFX users is the exceptional value. While native Fuji GFX wide-angle options like the GF 30mm and GF 23mm typically cost between $1,800 and $2,700, a used Pentax A version of the 35mm can be found for around $300. Even factoring in the cost of an adapter, the total investment remains significantly lower than a single native lens. Budget-minded shoppers can expect 80 to 90% cost savings while still delivering excellent optical performance. For GFX users building a system on a budget, or those seeking to expand their lens collection without breaking the bank, this 35mm represents an amazing value proposition. Finding a copy of the lens is mildly difficult. Only KEH had used copies available other than eBay when I looked. As of March 2025, the Heritage Focus suggested target price for a good used copy is $290 USD. As 35mm is in the ultra-wide space in the medium format world, we do see some minor vignette, about 3/4 of a stop, even on the crop medium format GFX sensor. It's easily correctable in post and doesn't require a center filter or any serious consideration when shooting. Bokeh is very pleasing on this lens, especially when you have some subject separation. It has a very Zeiss-like 3D pop to it, and overall I'd call the Bokeh creamy. I did want to mention that when adapted, there is a minor amount of barrel distortion with the lens. It's not significant, a correction of +10 in Capture One cleaned it up, but just be aware that it may impact your images if you're shooting a lot of lines or doing architectural work. CA is well controlled on the lens, which is a bit of a surprise given its age. I really didn't run into any issues with CA. Flare is similarly well controlled, and while you can get the lens to flare if you're really trying to, I didn't run into this in any typical shooting scenarios. Unless you're shooting into the sun, you'll be fine. Sharpness is excellent here. I truly mean it when I say this lens is on par with native GFX offerings. Micro contrast is strong, but resolution is also very high. Honestly, this is the reason to buy this lens. I don't think I've ever seen a sharper adapted 645 lens, and that includes some of the macro lenses I've tested. Color is deep, rich, and vibrant. There's a modern rendering to this lens when it comes to colors, so if you're hoping for more of a vintage feel, you might be disappointed, but I think everyone else will be really happy with the color here. Now it's time for the HTSA. The HTSA is our patent-pending Heritage Focus highly technical subjective analysis. This is where I assign quantitative values to specific lens characteristics based on absolutely no scientific measurements whatsoever and based solely on my experience and personal opinion. When it comes to sharpness, this lens is amazing, especially given its age, 10 out of 10. When it comes to bokeh, I rated it a 9 out of 10. It's got a very pleasing draw and provides some nice 3D pop in the images that I shot. Color is modern and vibrant, 8 out of 10. When it comes to character, the lens has more of a modern look to it. Definitely not as unique as some lenses we've tested, 5 out of 10. Flare control is really good. Unless you're intentionally shooting into the sun, you're not going to have much to deal with, 7 out of 10. Size is really manageable, even when adapted, 7 out of 10. Weight is really good for what it is. It's a solid lens, but it's not overly heavy. We'll give it an 8 out of 10. Price is the showstopper here. Given how sharp this is and the cost of the native Fuji options, which I feel this lens certainly rivals, this is an amazing value, 10 out of 10. That's it for the Pentax 645 35mm A version on the GFX 100S. If you enjoyed the content and found it useful, please do the thing and that other thing. Thank you again for watching Heritage Focus. Remember, you can always download the sample images shared today at heritagefocus.org.